about gender communication styles in sociolinguistics. There is general preference speech. In Western societies, women and men do not use completely different forms. They use different quantities or frequencies of the same forms. In Montreal, the French used by women and men is distinguished by the frequencies which they pronounce. I in phrases such as ILY, and ilvite. Both women and men delete I, but men do so more often than women. There's also gender and social class. The linguistic features which differ in the speech of women and men in Western communities are usually features which also distinguish the speech of people from different social classes. Across all the social groups in Western societies, women generally use more standard grammatical forms that the men do, and so, correspondingly, men use more vernacular forms than women. In Detroit, for instance, multiple negation, example, I don't know nothing about it, a vernacular feature of speech is more frequent in men's speech than in women's. This is true in every social group, but the difference is most dramatic in the second highest, the lower middle class, where the men's multiple negation score is 32% compared to only 1% for women. Even in the lowest social group, however, men use a third more instance of multiple negation than women, 70 versus 59%. This widespread pattern is also evident for a very young age. It was first identified roughly 30 years ago in a study of American children's speech in a semi-rural New England village, where it was found that boys use more in the girls more I forms. Later in studies in Boston and Detroit identified the same pattern. Boys use more vernacular forms such as consonant cluster simplification. Example, yas and tool rather than standard las and told. Boys pronounce t, e in words like the and then as t more often than girls did. In Edinburgh, differences of this sort were observed in the pronunciation of girls and boys as young as 6 years old. The pattern is clear, consistent and widespread, and it is evident from a very early age. There's also age-graded feature speech. One of the most obvious speech differences between women and men is in their pitch of their voice. Most people believe this difference develops at puberty. It is, though, to be as difficult to guess the gender of a 5-year-old on the phone as it is to identify gender of a swallowed infant from its wails and coos. There is also a slang in gender communication speech. Slang is another area of a vocabulary which reflects a person's age. Current slang is the linguistic prerogative of young people and generally sounds odd in the mouth of an older person. Because slang is ephemeral, vocabulary can be a real giveaway if you are trying to guess a person's age on the telephone or radio. Out-of-date slang words like spiffing, topping, super, groovy, and vab identify a British person as a member of the older generation as accurately as an old-fashioned RP pronunciation such as for often. Okay, maybe that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, let me continue the presentation. Now we will discuss about the gender. There are some definitions of gender itself. For the first one, it is not a pool of attributes possessed by a person, but something a person does. Because gender is also something that we cannot avoid. And the second one, it must be learned anew in each generation. The force of gender categories in society makes it impossible for us to move through our lives in a non-gendered way and impossible not to behave in a way that brings out gendered behavior in others. And the third one, it is a member of cultures in which a large amount of discourse about gender is constantly circulating. It is because gender is a key component of identity. And the last one, it is part of the way in which societies are ordered around us, with each society doing that ordering differently. Next, we will discuss about the differences. There are some things that we can see and or we can differentiate uh, about the gender between men and women. For the first one, it's about the chromosome. Why? Because females have two X chromosomes, whereas the males have only a X and a Y. This is a key genetic difference, and no geneticist regards that difference as unimportant. And the second thing is about the body. Females have more fat and less muscle than males because they are not as strong and weigh less. The third one is about the mature. They also mature more rapidly, and then the fourth one is about the age. Why? Because female is nearly all live longer than men. The fifth one is about the voice. Uh, Female voice usually has different characteristics from the male voice because differences in voice quality may be accentuated by beliefs about what men and women should sound like when they talk, and any differences, something like that. And the last one, it is about the verbal skills. However, the males and the women have different exhibit range of verbal skills. For example, it may be explained in great part through differences in upbringing, and it doesn't follow from this fact that boys are inherently less well equipped to learn to read for their performance poor performance in comparison to girls may be sociocultural in origin rather than genetic. So I think that is all of our materials today. Thank you very much. See you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.